My old friend Mike Berger's here, and who's this dude you brought with you, man?
I brought my defensive coordinator, Chris Hodos.
Oh, my Lord.
Yeah, you feel for me. I hear you.
Folks, buckle up. This is going to be an interesting 20 minutes of radio coming up here with Mike and Chris. Boys, I guess I'll ask both of you because you're both dads like I am. Would you let your son play football?
Unequivocally, yes, 100%. I think football is a lot different than when we were kids. We get water anytime we want. Our kids do. They wear the best equipment. I mean, some of these kids are wearing the same equipment that you're seeing on Sunday night football or Saturday at the college level. I think it teaches great life skills. I think, and this is just my opinion, I think society's gone way overboard on this. I think there's a lot of hypocrisy in this. When you have societies that go for ultimate fighting and MMA, and they don't say a word about that, but they've targeted the football for some reason because of concussions, we really want our kids to be safe, and we really go 100% to make sure that happens. We have almost no live contact anymore during the week.
How much has the rule? I've heard that the rules are changing on this from the state level. What's specifically different this year about the way you can practice? The first 2 days were just helmets. Second 2 days are helmets, shoulder pads. The fifth day was full gear, and that's for acclimatization. We've had great weather for football anyway, but that's a big rule. And then you have some contact rules. 2 days after the season starts. That really didn't impact us at all. I mean, it's basically what we do anyway. We kind of follow those guidelines. So what do you mean by? Explain what you mean. You get to have contact 2 days a week.
Yes. Yeah,
during practice.
Yeah, but we really have only 1 day during practice where we do a lot of live contact. And then we have our game week, our game day. That's live contact. So it really didn't change anything that we do at all. We do a lot of form and fundamentals and bags and really keeping kids safe.
I think that the fact that you don't have full live go all 4 days of practice is interesting because I always thought when I was coaching, and I coached against Climax, I coached against Cook up there at North Adams, we played everybody. I always thought you were the best hitting team that we faced every year, and that your advantage was that our guys were a little intimidated by the physicality that Pittsford played with. And you can have guys that really want to get out and hit and understand how to do it without beating the crap out of each other all week long.
Well, I don't know how Chris feels, but I think that, we really emphasize, you get what you emphasize,
right.
And we emphasize physicality. But, we're really good about coaching up the fundamentals and tackling, and, we want to head out of football. And we teach tackling a little bit different. Right. I think it's a different style, the old school where you reach and you pull the guy to you, hit with your shoulder pads. We're doing it differently, more of the USA football philosophy that we got from a University of Michigan clinic, and it's been good for us. I think we're just as physical as ever, and in some cases, and maybe more. What do you think?
I agree. We do a lot of things. We don't hit a lot, like Mike said, and we do things different than most programs. I'd imagine. Like he said, we don't hit a lot during the week. We try to keep our guys fresh, and really, we're like every other small school around here. We don't have a lot of numbers, so we can't do a lot of headbanging through the week and getting guys injured. So my
friend Jeff Qualls is the head coach at Camden, and he sees this differently. I mean, he always does. He does live contact on pregame. They go, full pad, full contact every single day. Now the rules this year will make that so that you can't. But he says, you hit in football. I want our guys to be tough. I want them to be, and it's just a different philosophy. I've heard other good coaches that do that too. But you guys have found a way for your guys to be physical, for your guys to tackle well without going full go all week long. And I think that's what the state wants, whether it's an overreaction to what we're hearing from the NFL and the big law, the huge class action lawsuit that came down from former players. I mean, all of us played football. I don't know if I ever got a concussion. Chris, you probably had some.
Never came out of the game.
Still suffering. He's still suffering from a concussion.
I played against him. I know he had a couple because he was pretty physical. But to me, there are just such a handful of examples of guys that have really had problems down the road. And you can get concussions. My wife was showing me something the other day. You actually have more concussions in soccer than you do in football. You can get hurt playing any sport that you want. And I have some good friends, really good people too, good guys and good friends. They love sports. and they're just not letting their sons play. They're never going to play football because of the stuff that's come down. You know, I love my kid too. I don't think that my friend loves his kid any more than I love mine, but I know what I got out of the game. I think that the great thing about the game of football, and I don't try to sell it to you guys, but for anybody else listening, if you're playing baseball and you've got a stud pitcher, you can be pretty darn good. If you have that one guy in basketball, you can actually overcome some sins if you have that one stud like a LeBron James. But I'll tell you what, you have a bunch of weak links on a football field, it gets exposed in a hurry. And you talk about the ultimate team sport and really having to rely on the other 10 guys on the field. That's what I learned about the game. And it always made me want to be accountable to hold up my end as an athlete, as a player, and then later as a coach. It's still a great sport. And I agree with you, Mike. I feel like some of this is an overreaction and you use the word hypocrisy, and I have to agree with you.
Well, we talked about that today in terms of the greatness of football and community, orientation, being part of something that's bigger than yourself, being on a team and being proud to be on that team, holding the rope and not letting go. Those are all things that we talked about tonight. So it's kind of funny that you mentioned it. People are gonna, it's the fad of the time, and this will pass. It's not the first time that people have thought football was too violent. I was watching the Big Ten Network, and Dave Reston was talking about that and the turn of the century, and they made some rule changes, and these rule changes are good rule changes. There's no, in my opinion, I don't think you need to stick your nose into it every day. Chris and I have both been to practices at Michigan, and he's probably been to Ohio State. I'd never want to stick my nose down there, but they don't. They play full speed without putting guys on the ground. They're really being careful about not risking safety, and safety's the most important thing to me and to our program. You mentioned concussions. We have a designated person that handles that. That's out of our hands. If they say the kid has a concussion or any symptoms that are concussion-like, he's done for the night. We don't even – it's not our judgment. So winning, some people say, well, you want to win at all costs. Well, everybody likes to win, but I don't want to win at all costs. Right. I want safety first. It's the most important thing. We just take that out. That decision is out of our hands.
Chris, the targeting rule, can you explain to our listeners how that works and how you've tried to coach that up?
Yeah, the real big one will be the DBs, obviously, with the targeting. We had a couple last year was the big helmet rule, leading with your helmet. And we had a couple that, were Levi Hollis, who was a great safety for us. He had a couple big hits last year, and both of them were flagged. And they were, you watch them on film, and they're not head leading. But this year it's going to be a targeting defenseless player where he can be thrown out of the game. And last night I saw Chuck Spring. I know he met with our ADs yesterday. I saw him uptown here, and he's the head of officials in this area. And he told me, he goes, Chris, you're going to have to watch. He goes, they're told to throw kids out of the game. That's what we're told. Yeah. If you think it's malicious, get them out of the game. And it goes back to the safety rules, with the concussions and everything else. We're taking a lot away from the game. The big hits, we're going to take a lot away from the game. But it's it's about safety also.
We're asking our kids to play the ball.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. That's how we're
play the ball and be fundamental in your tackling. And that should take care of itself.
Really, this is the first year we've done that.
Yeah, and I think that the officials will really look out for that, and that's okay. Because I don't really think it's going to change anything that we're really doing. I don't think. Just play the ball and we'll be fine in the defensive backfield.
You guys have enough to do a full varsity squad and a full JV squad. A lot of the teams around, I know Camden won't have JV again this year. You were telling me Bryan's probably not going to have JV. A lot of the other teams that we used to play, Waldron, Battle Creek, St. Phillips, Teconcha, Litchfield, they're all 8-man now. Are you guys afraid that it's going to become a time when it's hard to find games?
That time's already here. I mean,
been here.
Our league is the league we play in all the other sports is different than the league we play in football. We have a lot of games that are far away, and that's only going to get worse. I'm definitely concerned about that. But Pittsford, as long as I'm the coach and athletic director, will never go to 8-man football unless we're forced to by numbers. But I just don't see that happening. So
you have no immediate plans to switch Pittsford to 8-man football.
None.
We're breaking news here on WCSR
Never.
on the Timeout Show. Yeah, I mean, and Coach Qualls and I have talked about this down at Camden, and they have 17 guys, and there are a lot of 8-man teams that have twice as many guys as that.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't ever want to go to it. He says as long as he can field a varsity 11-man team, that's what he wants to do. That's his vision for the program, and I don't really get why the numbers have dropped in a lot of places like they have. I know enrollments are down a little bit. A lot of kids aren't playing. Sometimes I think that the kids that are a little bit intimidated by the summer two-a-days or the practices in the summer might use this concussion stuff as kind of a out. I don't want to get hurt, so I'm not going to do it. My parents will understand that. Guys, when I was a kid, and when I played in the early 90s, Camden's football program was not good. It never occurred to me that you could not play football. My friends, we all play. You just played.
Most kids nowadays, though, they've been playing football with Pop Warner and
right.
Rocket, and they played from third grade with youth, so they have some experience in it, and they know if they're good at it. We're finding with our Rockets and our Pop Warner programs, they're giving us players with experience, and these players are better players. And they're because they're more fundamental and they have good experience. But the kids that are marginal, those are the kids that are choosing not to play. And I think it's a couple reasons. One, we start school so late in September after Labor Day. It used to be, you had your scrimmage week and then you were in football. You could join if you came to school. But now we're starting football, the first week of August. Everybody's doing equipment handout, et cetera. And that really, I think, is a detriment to fall sports in terms of football. We're starting before everybody else. Nobody else is coming to the school at that time period but us, in many cases. And that's hard. Kids have a lot of things they like to do, and that's a sacrifice for the kids that are playing. I think it's worth it. But, I love football. I love sports.
You think those kids who were playing for Pittsford in 1996 thought it was worth it?
Oh, I think the kids that were playing, in 1996 or the kids that were playing, I talked to the parents in 1975 or 2005. The experiences that they get, the friendships, being part of an extended family and going through those kind of circumstances, I think that people would say it's worth it, for sure. For sure. Any kind of sport is worth it to be part of a team.
Mike Berger's the head football coach at Pittsford High School. Chris Hodos runs the defense. So we're going to talk about their football team, the 2014 Wildcats, when we return on the Timeout Show on WCSR. Mike Berger's the head football coach at Pittsford High School. Chris Hodos is the defensive coordinator. He's also the girls' varsity head coach. Mike is also the boys' varsity head basketball coach. And by the way, Chris Hodos is also the head baseball coach. Mike Berger's the co-athletic director. You still doing that?
Oh, yeah.
Is Hoover still involved with that?
Yeah, he got smart.
Okay. All right. I wasn't sure how that had all worked out. Last year, your team was 5-4. It was just the second time in the last 10 years that you haven't made the playoffs. 5-4 season, but you were in Class C. Now, had you been in Class D at 5-4, you would have been a high seed because there aren't a lot of teams playing Class D 11-man football anymore. This year, you're back in Class D. Let's just put a capper on last year's season. 5-4, you missed the playoffs. What do you take away from that season last year?
Well, we played some good teams. We got beat by all playoff teams. We had to choose whether or not we could have not played Homer, who went to the semis in week one and got to the playoffs. And, we're going to play, and we're going to play games and give kids those experiences, and I'm excited that we did. Last year's season was a near miss. We've made some changes in our defensive secondary and how we're playing, and then we've also changed our offensive scheme in terms of how we're going to run block. Okay,
for fans listening who are going to be at your opening night game, and I see you're playing Homer again on August 29th, what is going to look different for the fans?
Well, we're going to be a multiple formation team, but mostly we'll run some option, and we're going to see double teams in the line of scrimmage. We'll try to be real physical, and we've been working hard on our passing game.
That's something that you guys always did really well. I mean, I felt like when I was coaching, I spent so much time working on the run game, and then I wanted to have one or two play-action passes to go along with it. I always felt like you had a little bit more depth in the playbook in terms of the passing game. You guys do the 7-on-7s. You guys really work that passing game. And for smaller football, a lot of teams do focus on the run. I always thought you could throw the ball pretty well. How has that helped your team kind of set yourself apart?
Well, you've got to be able to move the chains. You're not going to be able to run the football against really good teams. You can slug it out, but they're going to give you something, and a lot of times it's those 7-yard hitches, those short passes, and then you can hit them with play action for a big home run once or twice. You're not going to get very many opportunities for that. So you have to figure out something that's going to keep the ball away from a really good offensive team. Otherwise, you're just not going to, I can't ask Chris to stop them all night long and give them the ball after 3 downs by, running the ball and getting 3 yards in a cloud of dust. That's just not going to happen. So I've got to have some things that give me a little bit more of an opportunity to hold the ball, to, shorten the game and keep those good offenses off the field.
Anything new for defense for you, Chris, this year?
No, like Mike said, we changed our defense. The way we're playing our defensive backfield a little bit. Just tweak things. Our defense has been pretty good over the last couple of years, and we like our formation. We run a 40 defense. Some people call it a 4-2-5, a 4-4, whatever you want to call it. It's kind of a multiple set. So
you guys always find these gosh dang little 5'4" nose guards that screw everything I'm trying to do up. I mean, where do you get these guys at?
I tell you what, the last 5 years we've had a Shadler in there, and they've been all league. A Shadler's been all league the last 5 years, so it's gonna be tough to replace that. They get in there with this crazy stance, and their legs are cocked all over the place, and other coaches tell us, what the heck is wrong with that kid's stance? And then after the game, they're like, we can't block that kid,
right.
And so that's gonna be tough to replace that. And I don't know, we don't get them from the wrestling program. I'd like to get some from the wrestling program because that seems to be the best nose tackles are the wrestlers. But, so I don't know. We just find somebody who's quick and crazy, and we'll go after it. So
yeah, you got these really nice little blocking schemes all set up and ready. You block this guy to your outside, gap on, over, all this stuff, and then these guys, you don't know if they're gap on or over, and next thing you know, your quarterback's ticked off and laying on the flat on his back, and that's what happens when you play Pittsford. You guys have always had, I feel like, as somebody who's coached against you guys, you always have speed. Seems like over the years you've had some incredible athletic guys that can really get out and run, but you were telling me on the phone that you have a lot of great strength up front, but you're looking for those skill guys this year.
Yeah, well, we have experience on the offensive line. We have all-league returner Zach Hartman, Joey Patterson are three-year starters on our offensive line. Austin Geyer was a good tackle for us last year. He's going to move over and take over the center spot. Tim Smith was a junior coming off the JVs, and he's looking like he's probably going to start left guard right now, at least going into our scrimmage. And then Hunter Moravik has really worked hard to get in shape, and he's looking good, really, really good right now. And so that gives us 5 really solid offensive linemen. We have some depth, some younger kids, Gavin Throop, Garrett Adams, big Britton. 290 kid, Ethan Britton, who is like one of those kids you're talking about. And, with the Shadler kid, and getting hard, going hard, staying low. And those kids I think are solid kids. And what we need to do is decide who's going to be our quarterback, which is a big question. They always get too much credit and too much blame. And we're looking at Bryce Meredith, Wyatt Price are battling out. And it's pretty even right now. So we're going to be going into scrimmage with 2 quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. In the backfield, we have Tyler Stitchcomb, who played with us last year, and Bryce Collar. They both had, near 500 yards. So we have some returners there. On the perimeter, we're going to probably Gavin Caskey's catching passes and Trey Tinsey. Tanner Moravik's going to probably play some Z. We have Thayer Cook playing tight end right now for us. And so, we have some weapons. We just have to get them experience and know they're going to make mistakes, and then, coach them up and get them ready to play. We play Homer. It's going to be a tough game, but we just got to coach them up, get them ready, and, keep going to work every day.
You have a receiver named Tanner
Moravik.
Oh, Tanner.
Yeah, he's 6'2", 6'3", 200 pounds.
I was getting excited about Tater out there, but Tanner will work too.
Yeah.
On the defensive side of the ball, obviously you have players that play both sides, both ways. Finding out that Coach Lemeron's doing that more and more. There was a time when you played offense, you probably wouldn't see a lot of snaps on the defensive side of the ball, and now he keeps the quarterback out usually. But most of his other guys are going both ways. So defensively, who are some guys you're kind of leaning on, Chris?
Like Mike said, Zach Hartman, he was a two-way all-league player last year. He played inside linebacker, and Thayer Cook's back. I have both my inside linebackers back, and Tyler Stitchcomb. He's one of my outside backers. So.
Doesn't that make you sleep good at night when you've got an
does.
all-league linebacker coming
yes,
back?
We lost a kid a couple years ago who would look real nice right now in our Pittsford uniform. He's down in Florida, a senior. I saw him on spring break. He came over and saw us, and he's about 225. He would have looked real nice in the middle too. So, but I like the kids we have. Like Mike said, Hunter Moravic's been working real hard. He's probably going to start at tackle for me. I can see this sophomore, Ethan Britton, he's been getting meaner and meaner every day, and he's looking like my nasty right now. And, in the defensive backfield, that's wide open. There's some guys back there with some experience. Gavin Caskey and Bryce Collar have some experience back there. And our quarterback, one of our quarterbacks, Wyatt Price, he'll play back there. And I've got 2 starting defensive ends coming back, and Bryce Meredith and Joy Patterson, and they're both real good. So, we're all right defensively. We got some young spots, but we're going to play my other outside linebacker. I might be starting a freshman there, so we're going to have some growing pains. But like Mike said, we'll coach them up and get after it.
We have the same problems that everybody does with these spread offenses, tackling in space. Athleticism versus, some of these teams you play, they have such great athletes. And they put their athletes in space, and then your athletes have to make plays. And, it's our job to do that and to get them in a position to make plays. But I can tell you one thing. If I coached like Coach Lemerand and I was coaching offense, I'd take the best 11 players on offense, and I'd give all the rest to Coach Hodos.
It's not a bad idea. By the way, have you been able to get your kids in shape with this late fall-like weather that we're having this year?
It's been like heaven.
Yeah.
Probably once the season starts, it'll turn 95.
It's supposed to be 90 on Saturday.
It'll be real hot and real warm.
Is your scrimmage Saturday?
Ours is Friday night in Vandercook Lake at 6 o'clock.
At Vandercook Lake, Pittsford, their first scrimmage. Let's look at your schedule real quick while I have you here. August 29th, Homer was awesome last year. I don't know about this year, but
they're
they were
real
really
good still. It's a big Class C school. We're on the road. That always is tougher. And it'll be the first time, with a lot of the young kids that we're looking at and kids that have not got varsity experience be sticking their nose into some guys wearing the wrong color. And you'll find out in a hurry what kind of player they are. And we're excited about that. It's a great opportunity. It's non-league, and I like to play a good opponent, set you up for your league schedule.
I always really enjoyed facing North Adams. I always thought it was a good matchup for us against North Adams. We had some really good games. Brian's a good friend of mine, and you got some history with North Adams and Pittsford. Those have been some epic battles over the last couple of decades, and Pittsford's won more than they've lost, but Natch has had some good teams. You got Brian twice this year.
Yeah, it's hard to find the games, and Gary Van Camp, the AD over there, worked that out, and it's a good close gate for both communities. It's definitely a rivalry, so there's a lot of intensity, and it makes the game a little more unique, a little more special. So, we're excited about that.
The sound of George bellowing from the press box is, to me, that's high school football. Right. When I hear that, I know it's game time.
Exactly.
Wyoming Tri-Unity Christian, September 12th. One of those teams to fill out a schedule.
Yeah, we had to find a game, and having a game week 3, open date because of our unique schedule, just finding anybody that would play us. It's not really very easy to find somebody to play us, to be honest. A lot of really big schools want to play us, and anybody our size really doesn't want to play us. Mm-hmm. And or the travel is so long that it becomes a difficult thing. So Greg Gallis, their AD up there, said he'd play me on a Saturday. They're in the same situation as a lot of the other teams are around here. 3 small schools that co-op together to form a team. So, we'll see what happens.
And they only have 17 kids right now.
17 kids, right.
I'll tell you what, Mike Berger and Chris Hodos are a couple of good guys. They do a great job with that program over there at Pittsford. They will hit you in the mouth. They play tough, hard-nosed, competitive football, and they're going to be in the playoffs year in and year out. And I have a feeling that when it's all said and done, they'll be right there again this year. Thanks for coming in, guys.
Thanks, Andy.